I'm going to read our vision statement. It's April 9th, 2020. The Ashland Public Schools cultivates the academic and social emotional growth of each student through a supportive, collaborative, innovative, and challenging environment. Students will develop into self-motivated, resilient, lifelong learners who embrace their role as responsible contributors to a global community. This meeting is being recorded by WACA Cable TV. In our order of business this morning, we have the call to order. We're going to go into executive session under Section 21A3 to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, and to return to open session. Ashland Educators Association teacher contract. Then we'll come back into open session. We'll have time for public comment. Administrative items include COVID-19 update, school start time by 2021-2022 vote, phases models of learning, status of athletics, additional fans vote, and then we will adjourn. I'm going to ask that if everybody is okay with this order of business this morning, and make the motion to enter into executive session. So if you could say yes to that. Mark Terry?
Hearing yes.
Yeah, can I have a second for that?
Second.
For the motion, and then Mark Terry?
Hearing
Paul
yes.
Kendall?
And yes, second.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Aaron Williams?
Hearing yes.
Kathy Bates?
Here and yes.
And yes for me as well. And you all have the link, and we'll see you over there, and we will be back into open session hopefully shortly. Good morning, everybody. Okay, we are back. Good morning to those of you we're seeing for the first time. And I will start then, Jim. Oh, first I will see if there's anybody here from the public that wants to give public comment. Okay, seeing none, Jim, I will turn it over to you for the COVID-19 update, please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being patient with us. A couple things. One, we had our third week of pool testing now, and all of yesterday's results came back negative, which is great. So we've just had that one positive pool. Originally, we have seen a little uptick in the number of folks who are signing up to participate, which is great. So each week I send a memo out that allows folks to sign up by Thursday, 5 p.m. So for the following week's pool, and so additional signups. And so I go through that information on Thursday night and then repopulate it so the nursing staff at Ashland High School can review it. The one change that we do have coming up with regard to pool testing is we're going to be conducting pool testing for all of the students as they return next week, cohort A, cohort B, if you will, on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays will be the day for every person who's participating in the pool testing. It makes it easier. For one day, I talked to the nursing staff at the high school, and they had actually requested I do it this way to do 1 day of testing, and then they have the results before the weekend as well. So that's great. Audrey, Ed, anything on the pool testing component? Nope. Okay. And I know, Audrey, we just got a big shipment of more of the pool. It's probably in your office by now. I had Mark deliver it. So it seems to be going well. We will have conversations with other schools after this vacation week. We'll actually have the conversation next week to determine, do we want to roll it out to another building? All accounts, I don't see the two principals from this morning on here because they're actually got full in-person learning going on at Warren and Mendez. It's been great. Mike and I have been through the buildings a lot. It's the energy and excitement is palpable. What I will tell you is, knowing that my two kids are back full-time this week, they'll probably crash this weekend. It's going to be a very different story. They're tired. The staff is tired. We have staff. It's been hard and challenging this week. I'll tell you that part of the truth of the staffing a little bit, because second shots of a lot of our employees were this week. And, you know, had the commissioner and the governor listened to our words of advice, right, Ed? We would have had all shots done on a specific day where we had a professional development day, the second shots anyway. We had it lined up beautifully. But that being said, we are where we are. We anticipated and made that known to the the higher ups, but yet people on the ground quite often are not listened to. So let's get into the numbers for the week. Any questions on anything that I just mentioned? Seeing none, we'll get into the numbers.
Jim,
for the week.
sorry, one question.
Yep.
Do you have updated vaccination numbers based on?
No, so I do. Sorry, Aaron. I'm just
No, it's okay.
I know I was moving a couple things around on my screen. We're in the high 80%, 80 to, across the district that have registered. And again, many folks that we know, that I know, and I bet the principals could tell you, have been vaccinated, just don't report it. They're not required to.
Right.
But those who have, we had almost, 100% of our staff respond initially when we were going to offer it through the district, and 97% said they were going to get the vaccine. So it's a high percentage. We're definitely in the 80s in terms of 1 shot or 2 shots. Our appointment numbers have been dropping steadily. Therefore, people are certainly getting the shots. So the numbers for the week, as you can see, there's been a decline. Ed and Audrey would not tell you otherwise in terms of some of the effort and work we've had to do this week.
Can you blow that up a little, please? A little bigger.
Am I not? Is that any better?
Big enough for me.
Yeah, it's off my screen now.
All right, don't worry about it. It must be something on my end.
Lori, is that still okay?
Yeah, it's taking up
Yeah.
my whole screen.
Yeah, no, if I go any bigger, it goes off my screen.
Yeah, it's big on mine as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Sorry. I did email it, Mark, so you should have it if you want to look at it that way. You'll notice the numbers went down. We've had a little increase over the past couple days. And, Ed, do you just want to have a quick discussion about these cases that came in over the past couple of days? What I want to emphasize is none of this has been in school. Again, it's a household outside of school.
Yeah, so with a couple of the cases, it was a positive parent, then spreading it in the household. And then we had another scenario where a toddler from contracted it at a daycare was asymptomatic and brought it home and then exposed the entire family.
And not one of our daycares, will be clear.
Correct. Yeah, yes, not our daycare.
Another
Yes.
town. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I want to make sure people understand it's not Nashland. It was a neighboring town. So, what I wanted to point out, I put in the context section this week, just since April 1, just a contextual of the number of cases we've had in terms of our students. So 2 at the high school, 3 at Mendez, 3 at Warren, and 4 at the middle school. And again, all household contacts, or as Ed said, someone brought it into the house from a separate childcare. And we're noticing our number of quarantine students went down this week. Our positivity rate is still right in that 3.5 range, 3.49 to 3.55. We're again firmly ensconced in the yellow for the state. But that being said, we're moving forward next week with full in-person learning for the middle and high school, and it's exciting. Claudia and Pete and I have had conversations every day this week, and they certainly would tell you it's been they've had a really good week, which is great. And that's about it. It's more of the update we're beginning next week.
Jim, with April break coming up, are you seeing a lot of use of the travel form, or is that sort of died off?
I haven't looked at. I don't look at it daily. It goes to the principals. I think there are definitely some families have. There will be an email again that I send reminding folks. It's that we, would like them to fill it out. So certainly we understand there's going to be a lot more travel in April, and we've already seen an uptick in folks mentioning that they would be traveling. But again, more and more, I gotta continue to emphasize, and I know Audrey and Ed would want me to do this, and every nurse in every building. I don't know how many folks are gonna watch this, but we will send the link out, as always, that if someone is not well, stay home. If someone in your household is being tested, stay home, keep the kids home. If you've become, symptomatic, stay home and get tested. These are all the things that we've been preaching since day one, but there's been this slower, it's not slow anymore, this sort of the floodgates have opened, the vaccines are out there, and now we're all safe. And it's not true, because we still have a segment of our population that's not going to be able to even get a vaccination, right? And so we're seeing an uptick, and I think other communities are, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, in our 0 to 20 population is where you're seeing the majority of the numbers across the Commonwealth. And that's happening in my communication with other superintendents. That's what's occurring. And they're not as sick. They're not, again, it goes back to that whole, conversation is of these younger folks are not as ill, or but they can still then be carriers, right? And we've got to be careful and continue to do our due diligence. CDC continues to put out a lot of guidelines. What we're finding, again, the surfaces, the touch surfaces, they finally put guidance out saying stop. There's no evidence of transmission on surfaces, just wash it down with soap and water. The only time they're actually recommending going in and doing any disinfection is if someone was positive in that classroom. That's the only changes that from at least the CDC has recognized. So.
Yeah, and Jim, and I will just share, I was on a webinar last night. It was mostly about testing, but there were people there from lots of different groups, but there were several infectious disease physicians there, and they are seeing cases of people who have been vaccinated that not only can still spread it, are still getting it. And the vaccination might be preventing them from getting as seriously ill as they might otherwise have gotten. But the idea that, you've been vaccinated and now, you're scot-free is not what's showing up in the patients that they're seeing. And of course, we're still learning on a lot of this too. So, we would ask everybody to still be cautious.
Yeah. I mean, it's like getting the flu shot every year, right? Some people still get the flu. Again, it's not 100% guarantee that you are going to not get COVID or the flu. There's a chance of it. So, okay. Anything further?
Any other questions on that before we talk about the start times again? Revisit that. Jim, you were going to get us some information.
Yeah, Chris, can you just share the information? Again, I'm recommending that we keep the same start times for school year 21-22 based on the number of bus runs, keeping still, I still believe in mitigating as much as we can. What we promised to get back to you was Chris, getting information from a financial perspective, how that would impact us. So, Chris?
Sure. Well, I mean, there'll be an incremental expense on a per bus basis, but the thought process is that we're going from 19 buses on our current fleet, and we're able to operate efficiently and perfectly fine with 17 buses. So all in, we're expecting some savings by being able to do that. Not huge savings in terms of the aggregate of the bus budget, but somewhere around 30K in overall savings. So it's not an overage. It can be we can go to the 4 tiers without having a unfavorable variance.
So hey Chris, just explain. I wouldn't have expected us to be able to decrease buses doing this.
I'll explain that part, Paul.
Okay.
The bottom line is we added. Remember when we did 3 tiers? That's one less set of runs. So we were combining middle and high school runs. So we needed, so now we don't have to do that. So we needed additional busing at that time to add in, get all the students on the buses for middle and high school. So now having just 3 tiers, we don't have the same, we have more capacity just for the high school and the middle school. That's why. We added the buses when we went to 3 tiers.
I think, I had the same immediate thought that Paul did, which is if we're running more runs to try to spread kids out, doesn't having more buses also help with that? I mean, I know there's the cost associated with it, but
Not necessarily, Mark. It depends on, again, the bus stop. Think about your bus stop. I'm just gonna use an example. We might have had 50 kids last year at a specific bus stop, and we needed, but now because it's middle and high, you might get 25 and 25.
right. No, I understand that, but
You don't
yeah,
need,
look, I guess it's a logistical question, and it's certainly one I trust all of you guys to sort out. It just makes sense to me that that if you have 19 buses, you have fewer kids per
well, of
bus.
course, yeah,
Okay.
but it's inefficient and costly to do that. I mean, there's no,
Right.
we're not gonna, we do not believe that by going to 17 buses, it's gonna negatively impact the spacing on those runs.
And I think that's the question is really, what do you, as long as you sort of have a benchmark you're targeting for students per bus, and the difference between 17 and 19 doesn't really materially change that, then I get what you're doing. It just the logically, right? I mean, just at a 30,000 foot level,
Sure.
it sounds different. And I understand fully there's the cost that we have to debate. I just
I mean that, right. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think from the 30,000 foot level, that's great. We could open up all our classrooms too and reduce class sizes.
right.
But we're not going to do that. We don't have that flexibility. We have the flexibility here in order to keep the start times the same. If we added those 2 buses in, yeah, we're talking probably an increase to our budget of 100,000. I mean, I don't know if that's a rough number, but it would be.
Yeah, I assumed it would be something like that, given what what our per bus costs are,
Right.
just around 70 grand.
Yeah.
Jim and Chris, this is taking into account the fact that we feel like parent drop-offs are going to be much lower next year, right? And that we have a return of all the homeschool students.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking at our historical numbers of bus riders, but again, reducing the middle and the high school to 1 route each versus combined routes.
Yeah, and Jim, that's more related to start times. We changed it when we changed start times. And
Correct.
They initially were within what 5 or 10 minutes of each other, and
Yeah.
they were still combined.
But we added them after the fact, though, so to make it more efficient.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we originally had 17 buses. We don't use all 19. Aaron Palini might be on here, but we have not used all 19 for the elementary schools. There's no need. So it's the middle and the high school. They only take up, they only, 2 can get to a seat, right? And it's crowded, and so.
And Jim, don't forget, last year you got the bigger buses too.
Correct. We also, our capacity's more as well. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I always forget that we got the more seats.
I guess, Jim, just one final question for me. And the obviously we changed the start times, right, for a particular reason.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that was, I think, going back and thinking about the studies on that, there was a bigger issue at the high school level age than at the middle school level age. And I appreciate we'd be doing this for just 1 more year for good reason. Any concerns or counterbalance in terms of the benefit of starting later versus starting earlier for the middle school age kids?
Dave, I don't know. I mean, you're on here. I don't know if you've seen tremendous difference in terms of your again, it's going to be hard with COVID to tell with your cohorts A and B, but it's a 20-minute change back to what it used to be. I prefer to keep everyone at 8:20, but I think for 1 more year, it's reasonable to request this. I know, Stephen and I have had conversations about athletic impacts being at 8:30.
And Jim, it's also not going back to where they were. It's still, Mendez is still the earliest.
Correct.
Right.
No, I understand. I'm talking, yeah, correct. So Dave, any thoughts on?
It is, I think, hard to, because our arrival procedure is so different. I wouldn't say it's that noticeable. There's a little more of a window as students are coming in the building, right? Because it takes a little bit longer. So being able to record those students who are coming in late is a little more flexible, but we haven't noticed any significant difference.
And again, I am certainly not recommending this for a long-term fix. I just think one more year of where we are and keeping the runs separate and the school start time separate is the right thing to do from a health standpoint. And
Any other
letting families know.
questions or concerns? I'm sorry,
I
Mark.
was just saying, letting families know and teachers know, so because they've got to arrange their own
Right.
care. So,
Well, and Jim, if we didn't do that and we wanted, spacing and things like that, would we actually need to go beyond the 19 buses potentially? If we went back to where we were, would we still be able to operate the way you want to, or where you feel is safe with the 19, or would
No.
we need to add buses?
no, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Do we need a motion, Lori, to change the start time of the middle school for next year?
Yeah, we do need a motion. There was a motion in our packet last time for this. So sounds like that's the way forward here.
I'll move to set the start time for the Ashland Middle School, the 2021-22 school year, to start at 8 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor, Aaron? Mark?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
An aye for me as well. Thank you. Okay, next up, phases, models of learning. So we know what's happening next week. And we can move to athletics.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So we are entering the final week of the fall 2 season, which has been going very well. And I would like to make a recommendation that we move from the current policy, spectator policy, which is 2 adults per home student or per home student athlete, so Ashland's athletes, to also allow 2 adults for the opposing team. Their guidance has changed significantly in the last 2 months. And actually what the guidance is now is 50% capacity outside. We are not certainly ready to go anywhere close to that. And we're not ready to broach having students yet at games, but we do feel comfortable having adults from the opposing team. So I'd like to make that recommendation moving forward.
Hey,
Discussion?
Stephen,
Up, Paul?
Sorry. Stephen, I assume you're with that, you're still doing all the same, keeping track of who's come in and that, because am I correct in saying that it would be on Ed's team to do any contact tracing if something were to occur? And so we're keeping the same kind of records of who was in from each side.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a little bit easier with our fans because we know who they are, but and they have badges. But with the away fans, what we'll do is print out the rosters, and whoever's checking people in will, check off
right down who came for each.
two
Okay.
per person. Yep, they will sign in with the QR code, but yeah, to make sure.
Stephen, are all the sports going forward in our final season outdoor sports?
Yeah. Yep. So, and I think I'm making that presentation next week. But yeah, everything's outdoors for the spring.
And is this going to be sort of a league-wide approach, so that's the only thing I think about is certainly with outside, it seems like far less of a concern. But if we're gonna let Hopkinton fans into our games, they're gonna let our fans into theirs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the schools have already been doing it. So,
Okay.
that's what we're getting at. And the next step would be, thinking about students. So, we'll look at that as we move forward.
It's just for the next season, the spring season, or immediately?
This is for immediately. So there's 2 more there's 2 more football games next week. One JV game and then the final varsity game at night. And it would be nice to allow the parents of the other school to come. And then as we move into the spring season, we can talk more about, and I've been talking with Ed and Audrey and Kelly about, what that might look like even to allow some students. So.
Any other
And-
questions or
and-
concerns about that?
And Stephen, you wouldn't be recommending it if you didn't have the capacity to keep track of everything going on and make sure people are behaving themselves and things, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, I don't have an issue with it.
Doesn't sound like there's any objection to it. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the recommendation of the athletic director with regard to allowing spectators from the visiting schools.
Second.
All in favor, Aaron,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and I for me.
Can
Jim?
I just- Mark, I just want to clarify, we're talking adult spectators. I just want to be sure. I know Stephen knows, but just record for, to record it for the minutes that we're not, no students.
Yeah, I understood Stephen's.
Yeah.
You recommending for
Yeah.
basically parents or adults.
Yeah, to two adults, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically extending our current
Yeah,
policy.
it was just a motion. I wanted to be clear.
spectators.
So, okay, that's all.
Also, but easy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was in the webinar that I told you about earlier, there was a little bit of a discussion, Stephen, I'm sure you know more about this than I do, that, you know, even the MIAA is entertaining, you know, advising that students can start to come as spectators as well. I don't know if they've come to conclusion on that, but I know that at least as far as the testing programs that some districts are looking at connecting, you know, student spectators to, you know, participation in the pool testing programs and others. So just wanted to plant that seed for that discussion if that comes forward.
Certainly. Okay, well, thank you guys, appreciate it. You just made a bunch of parents happy from me. So thank you.
Okay, anything else on that? Sounds like we're good, and we're good for today, unless there's anything else to ask Jim or Stephen or Ed or Audrey while we have the chance. All right, seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, Kathy,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
aye for me. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Great.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. Have a good weekend.
See you next time. Thanks.
Next week. Bye.